You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com, and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies.
This is AfterBuzz TV's House of Cards After Show.
We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show.
It's AfterBuzz TV's House of Cards After Show.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, After Buzzers. Welcome to another week of Netflix exclusive series House of Cards, Bing is for Doing. I'm your host, Thaddeus Massey. Joining me today is...
Hi guys, it's Emma Kostandyan.
Hi, Sophia Stanley.
And John Comerford.
Yes, so I have the most intelligent panel, I believe. I have to brag about them because we're coming to a close end. We got this episode, one more episode, and the stakes have gone to a whole nother level. And we're going to discuss it right now with Frank's meeting with Linda and the president vetting these new vice presidential candidates. Who, Linda?
The first interview.
Oh, the first interview?
She was great.
Yeah, that was really funny. The one they could put a crack baby to sleep, or a crackhead to sleep. That was really...
How'd she ever get elected to Congress?
You know, she's probably has a good team.
Yeah. Or because I was really concerned, like you guys were, but then I was like, is it that she's starstruck?
You know what?
You'd think, but oh my God, if you're in politics and you've done all that, glad handing and shaking of hands, and you've met everybody. I mean, maybe you haven't been in the Oval Office before, but you got to do better than that.
I think that she's probably the captain of her ship, and she wasn't the captain of that ship, obviously, because she's with the highest of the high, and she just wants to impress. And that's it.
It was just a very dead interview. I mean, I do interviews as well, and it's really dragging to have to pull words out of people's mouths. And he was actually giving her open-ended questions, which allowed her to elaborate on her experience. She was like, oh no, it's great.
and to jump to piggyback on what Emma said, he even then made a joke, and he was like, yeah, of course, 135 people, that's hard to, he was giving her a little bit more don't you want to expand or expound upon what you were saying? And she just kind of looked at him and kind of was like,
well, right. And it would be my honor. I would, Mr. President. And then she just kind of raised her chin like.
That's it.
Well, I mean, let's face it. Frank and Linda picked her because she wasn't going to interview well. So, but I just think you're in the Oval Office. You got to do a better job than that.
Yeah, you got to represent yourself because even if you weren't really there for the test, you're still being tested. Regardless.
Exactly.
I think that was kind of a little message right there. It's like even though this is kind of like a kibosh of a situation, you're still being evaluated. Even if you're not even being really looked at for what is going on.
But I think that what it's also trying to show within the whole 12 chapters is how different each politician is.
Right.
That some are extremely sophisticated and savvy, and we'll just call it whether or not it's a boardroom or the Oval or a living room, they're extremely personable.
Right.
Versus those individuals who on paper, and that's why the president says stop bringing me people on paper. Obviously they have their credentials or else they wouldn't be here, which is very different and distinct between being entertaining and charming and having gravitas.
Because Frank does say that she's a great legislator. She just may not be a good campaigner, may not be a good interviewer.
And I think he was referring in a way to the vice president because obviously he has so many years of experience, but his personality is not there. And unlike him, Walker, the president, is more of the people's person. He's a celebrity. He wants to be number one. He wants to be popular. So he's looking for someone to fit into his camp as well.
Yeah, but he needs somebody to help him. Help him win election next term. That is not going to do it.
Yeah, he definitely needs that. I mean, this guy, he's the popular guy, and he like you just said, Emma just said, he needs that swag. Look at Obama and Biden. Even Biden's a cool cool,
very cool.
cool VP.
Yes.
I mean, they fit. I mean, you could really imagine these two guys hanging out at a bar
I
together.
agree.
And
Yeah, but would you
having
have
some
ever
beers.
picked that from the beginning, and would you
No.
ever go, hey, let's put these 2 guys together? I would
Right.
never have put that together.
Right. So
That's fascinating.
It kind of makes sense that they would, I'm trying to figure out how he ended up with Matthews to begin with. I mean, obviously, it must have been something from the DNC. They were like, look,
I feel
No,
like
this is the guy to
it's
go.
all
We,
about
we've talked about
Pennsylvania.
this a little bit. I
Oh,
think
it was about
yeah,
Pennsylvania.
it's about
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. And I think that obviously when you have a younger president, you need an older VP that is more established and has the political legs
Right.
to shore up your
Well,
platform.
That's why Biden was so good with Obama, because he had the foreign credentials, so to speak. He knew all about foreign affairs and things like that. So, moving on.
Moving
But-
on.
2 quick things, though.
Yes,
I just
go
want to
ahead.
say I'm completely eating crow
Uh-oh.
about. Well, no, I am about Frank wanting to be VP. I knew that he was angling for something regarding the VP and regarding Matthews. I hadn't figured it out. I definitely didn't see him wanting to be VP, and I definitely didn't see. Remember, you guys have all said that his end goal is president,
Right.
and I have again and again for 11 chapters said that was not the case. So I just want to say that I'm eating crow.
Well, we've shown that he at least has maneuvered to want to be vice president. Whether or not he ends up wanting to be president, I mean, that seems to be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, but-
we'll find out next season.
But here's
for
the thing.
Sure.
I mean, you don't go to be secretary. You go to Secretary of State to get your foreign affairs bona fides. That's why you go there,
Right.
because then you're on the world stage and they can see you as president.
Well, Linda kind of laid it all
Yeah.
out when she was like, "Were you waiting for a moment like this?" What was that last
because
week or 2
once you
weeks
didn't
ago?
get Secretary of State, what's the next thing I can do to get president?
Right.
The only thing is
Right.
the
And
stepping stone.
however, though, I still contend that Frank is not a chess player because he's still up until this point underestimating the president. Regardless of whether or not he's popular,
Yeah.
he is obviously a strategist and has been playing Frank from the very beginning.
Right.
And in every single interaction, almost plays the I'm just cool and popular, but I'm not really smart. It's
Right.
2013.
Yeah.
Cool,
Right.
smart is cool.
Right.
So to think that he's gone to where he's gone and hasn't seen you coming, that was Frank's misstep, and
Yeah.
he's only looking at Linda as the enemy and not necessarily as the president.
I mean,
Well,
he is
and
the president.
to that point, even in this episode, he didn't even, at least Frank didn't speak about it to anybody. It was the president that got him to go to St. Louis and got Frank to make the gesture. Because Frank is like, Frank
was
came up with the
beautiful.
idea. Like the president wasn't trying to get him to do it all along.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And Frank, it never even, at least if he'd thought about it, we didn't get to hear it.
Do
I'm
you
just
guys
saying, you'd think he
do you
would've
guys
pointed
think
that
that
out.
Linda knew about the plan?
I don't think Linda knew.
I don't think she did.
And you want to know why I think she didn't know? Go ahead. Actually, go ahead, Emma.
Well, no, I was gonna say I don't think she did either because she was even more nervous than Frank about the whole situation about Frank not being about her not even getting a chance to speak with the president about him. And Frank's calming her down like, oh no, don't worry about it. We got this. And she's a wreck. She's breaking down.
Well, she's in Frank's back pocket now anyway because of what he did for her son. So,
And I wonder if the
now,
president knows that.
he may. I mean, he
That's
is
why-
the president.
Maybe
for
why
a
he didn't bring
reason.
Linda into the fold on that.
And also, too, don't forget, Linda was Frank's girl from the beginning. So
Right.
just because they've
Yeah,
butted
Frank got
heads
her the gig.
recently, but Frank got her the gig.
Yeah.
So as far as the president's concerned,
They're in.
the president from day one could have always been like, Linda's really on Frank's side.
Right.
And if anything, may have actually placed little crumbs to see how everyone's going to play. Because basically the best way to see what your enemy's going to do is to push them into a corner.
Right.
And that's what they did by taking away the Secretary of State position.
Right.
They pushed Frank into a corner, and now what they've been doing is they've been watching to see how he maneuvers.
Well, certainly Tusk has.
Right.
But I mean, the way they, at the end, you're not even sure how much Tusk is telling the president.
Oh,
I definitely think
he's
he
telling
has-
him more by. Well, he's not really telling Frank anything, but
I think he's only telling the president whatever is in his best interest.
Sure, because even though the president and Tusk have a relationship, I'm sure Tusk is not telling the president everything that the president would want to know.
he's definitely not. But the thing about this funny situation is that it's obvious that Tusk is deflecting everything. He can't get a straight answer from this guy.
That was driving me crazy watching
And
those damn scenes.
And those scenes, oh my gosh, it was like watching paint dry. Yeah. He's asking this guy all these questions about being a VP, and he's just not giving him a straight answer. I mean, he takes him bird watching, for crying out loud. Who takes somebody bird watching and then
to unnerve them?
He was trying to unnerve him,
and
he was trying to get under his skin, which he was definitely doing.
Yeah.
And
take them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, totally.
But the funny thing is, this has been building for me for the last 11 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost as if chapter 1, I actually viewed Frank as this intelligent, strong, powerful, strategic general, right? With each episode, I keep thinking like he's barely treading water. No, seriously. And there's Frank. There's a condescension, and his gravitas and his hubris is strangling him.
Right.
So from day 1, when they say "stay at my home," that was a mistake. Because now I have a complete home court advantage in my home, right? Number 2, you're going to view that my home isn't a mansion or a McMansion, and you're now going to judge me despite the fact that I'm a billionaire, right?
And he has neighbors right across the street. I was like, what?
Right.
What billionaire lives right across the street from a neighbor?
When the wife says, "Oh, do you want a good morning knock?" Right?
Yeah.
A wake up knock.
Right.
And Frank goes, "Oh no, I have an alarm on my phone."
Yeah.
See, he thought he had her figured out, right? Like she's some backwoods like moron, right? Every single no, seriously.
Right.
He wakes up at 2:00 in the morning, right? And he's fearful. That was his instincts. He should have trusted his instincts, right? Because he woke up like really scared.
Okay, but speaking of that, I honestly thought that he was, and I don't know if this is true. This is where I went, because the way he was looking, I thought he felt like he was being haunted. Meaning,
that's
meaning it was Peter.
Right. See, he.
But I don't know what you guys thought. That's where I went.
Yeah.
I thought he was thinking
That's a
that.
great point.
I was just wondering. Anyway, I
That's
didn't
Well,
know
the
what you
funny
guys
thing,
thought about that.
exactly. I mean, go ahead, Sophia. You were breaking that.
Okay,
that part
and
down.
then you go. It's 2:00. The guy's making bacon, right? So again, why does he go to bed early? He wakes up obviously, and I had to look it up, and
Yeah,
it's like
'cause-
Wei is hello in Chinese or one of the
Exactly.
Chinese. So
Yeah.
so obviously wakes up at 2:00
doing
because he's doing
business.
business,
Right.
right?
He's working.
So he's
In
making
China.
he's making bacon, right? And from the very beginning, he's analyzing Frank, and Frank isn't realizing, right? So even as Frank leaves and he knocks, twice on the table, and he goes, "Why do you do that?" Obviously, he's been studying you. He brings up your father, and there's a moment when Frank goes, "Wait, how does this guy know so much about me?"
Yeah.
And it obviously is hitting Frank where it hurts, because again, remember at church when Frank brings up his father and he's like, "Oh, he's a coward," blah blah blah.
Yep.
He's bringing up everything that is going to unnerve Frank.
Yeah.
He was a peach farmer, huh?
Right.
Peach
And
farmer.
he's like, he
And
was very
unsuccessful.
successful.
Yeah.
He was like, no,
Nope.
he wasn't really.
He wasn't lucky or prepared.
Well, yeah, he was. Yeah, he wasn't lucky or prepared. That was it. A little bit of both.
And then-
he wasn't good at either one of those.
And then he just turns around and goes
Yep.
back to his phone call.
He's trying to get the measure of a man.
That
and-
was very unnerving.
Yeah.
I was unnerved by that.
Yeah.
Just watching it. Just like this guy's having a conversation with you, asking you personal things, and then he just goes back to business. It didn't say, okay, well,
I thought it was better in the office with the phone calls
Oh, my-
interrupting him.
That was really funny. So he tells him, look, we'll meet at 9:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Frank shows up to the office at 9:30 in the morning.
Speak.
Yeah,
on the-
This
that's how
guy's
he answers the phone.
This guy's answering the phone
That's how my
every
father would answer the
5-10
phone.
seconds. It's like, dude, are you
Swear.
serious? Yes.
No.
Speak. No. I have one.
I swear to God, that's
he
how my
goes.
dad answered the phone.
He goes through this and he explains to him how they, he has this thing where people can call and ask him questions as long as it's the basis of a yes or no answer, which was really funny. Which is probably he does business like that, and he probably makes everybody. He's very brass tacks, this guy, which is really the unnerving part for Frank, is that he's not being brass tacks with him regarding this VP thing. So it's like, what is there so much for you to consider? So that's when Frank breaks the fourth wall, and he's like, okay, he either wants me to woo him, or he's just gonna say no. But either way, I can't tell. So at that point, Frank was really being honest here, where he was in a position of vulnerability. He was being completely unnerved by this guy by going to his house, then his father being brought up. He's staying at the guy's house. It's like no reason paying the tax dollar money. He's being played, and this is another one of Frank's
But wait a minute,
problems,
he
is that
held his
can't-
own at the dinner table. Because let's say Raymond
Okay.
Raymond so wanted him to commit in some fashion to say something about the VP, and he didn't.
Right.
And see, I disagree. I think that's his Achilles heel. So at the end
What
of the
part?
day, not saying that you want to be VP. I'm going to go out on a limb. Doesn't everyone want to be VP? Doesn't everyone in a certain position of power want to be the top dog, right?
No,
And even
remember
though
that's his second. That was his second choice. He did not want that originally. He wanted Secretary of State. He only went for the VP because he didn't get what he really wanted.
I think he only wanted Secretary of
point.
State because VP was taken. It wasn't.
I think it has everything to do with if you want to be on the national stage, you want to get the Secretary of State. Look, Hillary Clinton picked Secretary of State for a reason.
Right.
I agree. That's it. But okay, the fact that you have someone like Walker who literally is like, I don't want someone on paper, and everyone else is being, I would be honored. That's like that old school way. Be like, of course I want to be VP. Like, what do you need from me? What do you need to know? And I think that Frank is used to maneuvering people. And if I think on some levels, if he had just come out and been like, yeah, of course I want to be VP. I don't really know why he picked you. That would have been a better way to approach that type of adversary who is brass tacks. Like, this guy laid out to you how he runs his business and obviously how he maneuvers as a human being, meaning he's not all for pomp and circumstance. He has like a down-home lifestyle, but at the same time, he has a wife who's well-traveled. So even though you peg this wife as some country bumpkin, she's obviously been to Peru and all these other various places, but Frank didn't change how he was interacting with him.
Well, that just goes to show you the lack of hubris that Frank has. So since he was jockeying for control of the situation, which he usually has because he's usually in a position of placing himself in the driver's seat, he was obviously the passenger this whole time. And
that's where I disagree. I don't think he was the passenger the whole time because he was
definitely going for the ride.
I think, but let's face it, when he's out in the woods, he knows. He's rolling his eyes. He knows something's up. He knows. He just doesn't know until he gets the info from Stamper. So all along, he's waiting for info. Before he even goes there, he tells Stamper, "Hey, check in on this, check in on."
He
knows there's something else.
But he doesn't know that Stamper's going to actually come up with something.
No, but
he's just doing what he normally does.
Right.
That's his normal MO. He's send Stamper to go find.
I'm saying he's behind, but he knows something else is up. All along, he knows something is up.
But I think he's on the wrong end. He's trying to tighten up loose ends with why Walker wants Tusk for VP. He's looking at the wrong information.
No, I completely agree with Emma because specifically, I think that when Frank broke the fourth wall, when Tusk mentioned that the poem from Walt Whitman, right? And the way that Frank breaks the fourth wall and basically is like, of course I learned that I went to military school.
Right.
Obviously, Tusk knows that.
Right.
Like, so by you keep playing dumb, Tusk is figuring you out at every second. And even that's why at the dinner table, when basically Frank was like, well, if I'm going to speculate, and basically what does he say? He goes, speculation is a poor form of investment and an equally poor form of politics. And even the wife is like, so what do you know? Aren't you here on behalf of the president? Like, they're both calling him out, and literally he doesn't do this, but he almost stutters. Judy, he doesn't actually do it, but that's what he's doing. He's like, no.
That's my point, though, is that even though they're both barrels at him, and he's going, okay, and a different tack each time. He didn't get overpowered by them. He killed his own, and at the end there, they didn't get his response.
So basically at the end of the day, by the time dinner comes around, he's like, okay, I'm over the charade. Let's really see what's your guys' angle? What's going on? Because obviously, it's not all about.
Yeah, he knows something else is up.
He smells the fish.
It's not until after he gets the info from Stamper that he puts it all together.
Great point.
I just feel like Frank wasn't being Frank this episode because I have to agree with Sophia. When you're in upper management, especially if you want to roll like VP, and Walker says so, you have to go get it. No one's gonna offer you on a silver platter. And Frank being Frank, he did not go after it. So when Tusk does say, do you want it? I think he should have jumped at it and said, yes, I do. Because
but you can't.
It was more like,
I don't know how you can do that.
The question was posed like, what would you do?
Yeah.
He should have said, of course, who wouldn't want to be VP? But it's not about me. This is about what you want. What do you want to do?
Let's not forget, he's sent there by the president in his mind, to vet the guy. So you can't tell the guy you're vetting for VP that you'd like to be it.
Right.
That would be poor form.
Right. That would be poor form. That's what I say. What he should have said was, well, who wouldn't want to be VP?
That's right. But you'd have to cage it. You couldn't just come right out and say it, because then how honest are you going to be to the president? I mean, it's like saying, "No, okay, I'm going to interview you for this job that I want, but I'll interview you."
Right. You know what? I agree with you, but I think that in negotiating, I'm just going to break it down to two different types of people. There are two different types of negotiators. There are negotiators that hold their cars and negotiators that put their cars on the table.
Right.
And some negotiators are like, of course I want the job. However, the president sent me. So because I work for the president, I'm still going to do my job. But yeah, of course I want your job. So if you say no, I'm letting you know I'm about to slide into your spot.
Right.
Versus there are some people who hold their cards close to the vest. I think it just depends on who you are.
Yeah, see, I think because in my mind, Frank knew something was up. There was something amiss. And so I'm not going to reveal my cards till I know what's up. Because why would I give you that information without knowing where you are in this?
Well, I don't
just
know
think
about.
he's just never done that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I don't know about, of course, the AfterBuzzers out there that watch the show. But I feel like I got hit upside the head with a black skillet when the tables got turned. I don't know if you felt like that, but I felt like that.
When he finally found out what was up?
When he found out what was up, I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
What is really going on? So that really just had the way the tables turned, and then how Frank played the whole situation.
Yeah.
How he played.
Then he was Frank.
Then he was Frank.
I'm calling a car. I'm getting the hell out of here.
Then he
Screw
realized
you.
that he felt like a little more empowered. Yeah. He felt like when he said how he's been played. That to me was a good and a bad thing because it also went back to show that Frank's lack of hubris is biting him in the butt again because he's underestimating.
But I think it is his hubris because he thinks that he's the.
I just think Frank now being
everything.
himself, he gave Tusk the upper hand now to control him if and when he does get into VP.
How did he give him that?
Because he knows now how to get under his skin. He knows, that he could break Frank down. And
how? I'm sorry. I'm just missing. I'm not exactly sure how he knows how to break him down.
Because of the questions that he was asking him, and he saw that Frank was getting nervous about answering the questions.
I agree with you. However, I think that the problem is only if Frank then didn't respond the way that Frank did. This is the thing is he already got underneath his skin, and now he saw how Frank responded, and Frank responded like Frank, and Frank basically was like, checkmate. Like, he came down to that kitchen at 2 o'clock in the morning, fully in his suit, was basically like, oh, I don't shackle myself to people I don't know. I'm normally on your side of the table, so just because you had me for 2 seconds, never again. That's basically what Frank was saying.
Right.
Frank was saying, I don't care what you're dangling in front of me, what one favor it is, you would never take a blank check. Bye. Like, literally and
that's what I'm saying.
figuratively.
I don't know how he thinks.
Yeah.
He
So
doesn't have anything. And the other thing that Tusk knows is everything that Frank has done. So even though he may think he knows what Frank is capable of, he also knows what everything that Frank is capable of. Meaning, I may think I know everything, but because I know everything, there's way more that he would do.
Well,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well,
Thaddeus.
he showed. I think that Tusk played too much of his hand.
I agree.
Because he underestimated the fact that he knows so much about Frank.
Right.
He hasn't actually dealt with Frank. There's a difference with dealing with Frank and knowing the paper of what Frank has done and got himself into. He says, I know you're incredibly effective when you set your mind to doing whatever, which is evident in all the things that happened with Kern, what has happened with the education bill. So, and then obviously what's gone on to this point for him to be considered for VP. Obviously, this guy, and then he admitted he was the reason why he didn't get second state, which is stupid.
I thought Frank is going to go after him like he did with Russo.
It is stupid, but it also
but he
shows
did admit that he made a mistake.
It shows his power.
Yeah, it did show his power, but it also
And he admitted he was wrong.
And he admitted he was wrong.
But that was his weakness.
That was his weakness.
But I think he did that on purpose.
I agree, but at the same
that was
time.
a card.
Oh, okay. I was gonna take back. I'm still gonna say it, even though I'm taking back at the same time.
You're gonna speak out both sides of your mouth right now.
Yes, exactly.
There you go.
Because this is the thing is, basically, he just showed that Frank is a viable enough enemy that they need to make him a friend.
Right.
Right? Because or else they would have made him Secretary of State. And they watched him after they made him Secretary of State and said, "Oh crap, this guy is so good at what he does, we need to make sure that we bring him into the fold."
Yeah.
Right.
How do we do that? So they've been angling him just as much. And when he said, I made a mistake, that was basically saying, I need you. And especially if a billionaire of his stature needs a favor from Frank, and it's a blank check favor, and just like we said, I totally don't think that he's told the president. And it obviously has something to do with something that the president is not able to give him, that he needs Frank to give him.
Right.
And Frank has already started to put all those wheels together.
And we don't even know the reason why he didn't want to make him Secretary of State. We only are guessing at that. Because there may be a reason why he wanted Frank right where he is. If you take him out of where he is, I mean, who knows? I don't know.
They alluded
as a majority
to it
whip
earlier. They did allude to it earlier
What's
that he had one foot in the House. And
that's what I mean.
he was more effective.
It might have been more
and helpful to
effective to have one in the
then.
executive branch and one in the legislative branch, and
Right.
now I've got real power.
Right. It had nothing to do with Frank personally. It was really just a maneuver of Frank's proven,
take him out of the
proven track
then he's
record.
Secretary of State, then he can't help you in the legislative branch.
Exactly. So that was really, that just put the kibosh on Frank's whole agenda, which really it was that's what you call it, that's business. He was like, nah, leave. It was probably like one of those meetings where, nah, leave Underwood there, make this person
Exactly,
blah, blah, blah,
exactly.
because he's good at that, and you can put this person there, and we can use this situation, blah blah blah, like that. So he was just
regardless of Frank's ambitions. Yeah. So who's being played chess?
Frank
He's
was
a pawn
used
now.
as a pawn, and yeah, I'm sure he's actually figured all that out at this point. He's annoyed.
But then there's. I just wanted to point out, because we've been talking about the conversation between Frank and Raymond. I love the whole talk about the bird, the parakeet that's extinct,
Ooh, yes.
and it was voracious. And I well, voracious because we know that about Frank's appetite as well, and he's poisonous to cats who ate it.
Yeah.
So it's like the cat that ate the canary and the whole
Right.
thing. And I'm just thinking, oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's
They did
nice.
some good writing.
Yeah.
Good job, guys, on that episode for Frank. And anyway, let's talk about.
Well, actually, you know what? Let's. We really want to hear from you, viewers,
we
and
do.
Oh, yeah,
we want to
please.
know whether or not Tusk played his hand, and whether or not basically Frank now has the upper hand, or whether Tusk has the upper hand, and more importantly, is Tusk really on the side of Tusk or on the side of the president? Because he could now be a whole new player. And the best way for you to let us know that is on iTunes. You simply go to itunes.com and you click in AfterBuzz TV, House of Cards. And when you're there, you can rate, comment, and subscribe. And specifically, you can comment on what we've been talking about, on whether or not Frank has the upper hand, Tusk has the upper hand, or maybe the president's a whole lot smarter than anyone has given him credit. So again, rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes for House of Cards. And one of the things that we're doing now at AfterBuzz TV is you can stream live on all of your iDevices. So you can watch us anytime, anywhere on your iPhone, your iPad, your tablets, any device that has an internet connection, you can now watch us. So make sure that you do that and you tell a friend.
Sweet. You guys can also follow us on Twitter at AfterBuzz TV, and you can also subscribe to us on YouTube at AfterBuzz TV as well. If you guys have any questions or comments and want to ask any of us from the panel any questions, or give us your comments and just put your input in, put your 2 cents in the conversation for this episode, you can call us 424-256-1633, 424-256-1633. So let's talk about Claire. She comes home from her little her, what do you call it? Her rendezvous.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Great word.
I call it a hiatus.
Her Frank hiatus.
Nice.
With
She had a little sabbatical with a photographer.
sabbatical. That was a good one. She comes home and she's, back home, I guess, after the whole Peter Russo thing.
And first time we see her, she's just really anxious about whether or not Frank's going to get the nod for VP.
Well, yeah, she is. I mean, there's
Right,
a
because
lot of
last
stuff.
time all they did, they had that nice presentation to the press. They had their little press conference while the credits are rolling and the hearing. God, they sounded just so
Now,
sick.
mind you, Frank has got a lot accomplished as Claire's been
Oh
gone.
yeah, I know. See,
So it
you
was
always
like-
get more work done.
He went in the war room and he kind of put his game face on, and it went from Sec of State to VP like that.
Well, you
So-
remember the first episode when he loses Secretary of State and he has to, what are you going to do? Claire says, what are you going to do about it? And he thinks for like a day and a half or whatever.
Yeah.
And that was the plan all from then on was VP.
That was the beginning of his hostile takeover.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great. I think that's a great way of saying it.
That's a great way of
It's a
saying
hostile
it.
takeover.
So
She comments this time saying, don't take longer than like 9
9 hours
or
Right.
to
something.
call me.
Yeah.
And she admits that she's nervous.
Yeah.
yeah,
We've never had Claire express any quote unquote vulnerable emotion before. But
And-
go ahead, Emma.
The way she's dressed, the way she looks, even tells that she's really nervous.
And she even comments, especially because
Yeah.
of last time.
Yeah. Anxious. Very
What was
anxious.
really funny is now that Frank has taken it to the level that he's taken it to, and this one, you guys go on iTunes and comment or whatever and ask questions, or you guys call in or whatever. Was Frank right in not wanting Claire to take that money? Because now this whole Remy Sandcorp thing is going to come and bite them in the butt.
Yeah, it is.
And now
when he-
Frank's whole plan, it seems like, was like, look, let me do my thing. The ultimate plan is gonna happen. Just basically what he was saying was, sit back, hold your horses. I got this. And she couldn't hold her pants.
Okay, I'm gonna
Literally.
I'm gonna play.
And she
devil's
took the money from
Okay.
Remy.
No, because you wanna know
And
why?
now it's coming to bite her in the butt.
because he needs Remy, and without her, he would have made Remy an enemy. Because now, at the end of the scene, what does he do? He goes, get Remy Danton on the phone. Because obviously, what do we have? We have gas, right? Because Remy is gas and oil versus nuclear energy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
gotta pit those two
he's
things
going to
together.
pit them together against one another. So now Remy is a little bit more amenable.
But that's after the fact.
It doesn't
because
matter.
now he had to go that route now because that's where the car.
But here's the thing: he could have still gone to Remy.
No, but
even without Claire and
Exactly.
that
He could've
alliance,
gone to
because
Remy.
he would have gone to because there's just something in it for Remy and Sancor.
Right. His relationship was not with Remy was not ruined just because Claire didn't take that money.
They do the business. They
do their thing. They do the business.
But unfortunately for Claire, it's gonna haunt her now because of the whole Jillian thing.
Because Jillian is a purist of non-profit.
She's an idealist.
Right. And now she's seeing the dirty side of
Claire.
Right. And they're associating it with big nonprofit. There's like the big corporate nonprofits, and then there's the ones that are the tree hugging type of nonprofits. What is it, Worldwell?
Yeah, Worldwell.
Worldwell is supposed to be, and I guess they had this alliance that it was that it was supposed to be an alliance.
Unless you
or
disobey
affiliation, and Jillian has a rude awakening.
But did anyone think of it as like when they were in the hallway and
that
earlier?
was such a weird
but
place.
It's a marriage. Basically, Claire is talking to Jillian in the way that her marriage is. Like,
the
don't
way that Frank
disobey you,
does?
right?
Yeah.
And basically, Jillian is calling back to her, saying,
calls her out on the whole.
Calls her out on it, like thinking, like, oh no, I thought we had an actual marriage where we were 50-50 partners, alliance.
Right.
And basically, Claire's like, oh yeah, until you disobey me, which is exactly what Frank does.
Frank did it.
So, because Frank and her were supposed to be partners, but obviously Frank's really the one in charge, and Frank basically doesn't yell at her unless she disobeys him.
And remember how Frank says, "Is it the hot flashes?" And
Right,
she
and she
sits there and
goes-
goes. And Claire's talking to Jillian.
About
the pregnancy.
And I think that's exactly why even Claire gets so hot and bothered, because basically Claire is so Claire is so aware now of her new position. Already went on her hiatus, right? Went on her hiatus, realized that being in love for a week isn't enough to sustain her.
Right.
Had to come back. She's nervous. She's not herself. And now she
she's
basically
pissed
has,
too.
and she's pissed.
She reacted with anger rather than clarity.
Yeah.
Right.
Pardon the pun.
Clarity.
Yeah,
I like that one.
That was good too.
I was just thinking that Jillian was so naive, like, I thought we had an agreement in good faith. Obviously she's never worked for a big corporation, even though it's a nonprofit.
And she didn't mention the contract too. She was like, "You signed that contract." I was like, "This biatch."
But she's right. I mean,
like that.
even
Wow.
even as much as we may, not like her, but she's right. How do you sign a contract and not look at every single detail that's in there to make sure that everything that you're saying that is going to be 50-50 is actually 50-50, right?
Okay, when you guys
Okay, I'm gonna know, and I'm
Okay,
gonna totally disagree with you. I'm totally gonna disagree with you.
Before Sophia goes on her attorney rant,
It's gonna be good.
I want you guys.
good. I love
They're
it.
really not.
I want you guys to go on YouTube, and I want you guys to leave comments on whether or not you feel Jillian was duped, because I know some of you guys feel like Jillian was probably suckered in, and some of you probably feel like the opposite, like she was just in a situation that was way above her pay grade, as they might say, and she just got involved in a situation that's way more sophisticated than what she's used to.
So
it could go both ways. I know there's going to be arguments both ways about this.
well,
Claire
since
and
we
Jillian
have
situation.
a bona fide attorney on the panel, what
Yes.
would you think?
Normally, you're not supposed to out me like that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, everybody.
But haven't we already
Your
done that
fans
about
already
4 or
know
5
something.
times?
Have we?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we have. Maybe
Yeah.
I've done it too. Okay. Funny thing is, this is gonna be. I should not say this.
Okay, don't say it then.
But
I'll say it.
no.
Just
But
whisper in my ear.
most people don't read contracts.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't, because at the end of the day, all a contract is a memorialization of the relationship. Right. So sadly, most people think that if we sit here and we both agree, okay, you're gonna take odd days and you're gonna wash the dishes, and on even days I'm gonna wash the dishes, right? So we both agree, okay? Then I go, okay, cool, I'm gonna write it up. You sign it assuming that what we just talked about is what's on the paper.
Right.
Because most people, it's relationship based, and the paper is just the actual contractual obligation of the relationship, right? In the same way that even Tusk was like, I'm assuming we're still on a handshake, right? Because even different cultures view things differently. If there's nothing to hide, we can orally agree to certain things, right? Now, if you remember how Jillian was hired, she was sick. Like, you can even argue emotional distress. She was sick. She didn't have health insurance. She possibly thought she was dying. Now we find out that maybe she was pregnant and all these other various things.
Right.
Jillian maneuvered her in such a way that she basically was saying, you can trust me. Now, was Jillian duped? No, because Jillian should have been sophisticated enough that at the end of the day, you have an employment contract. The employment contract is what binds how you act. However, your assertion that people normally would read every single line, even if they read every single line, they're not going to understand it unless they get an attorney who is equally matched to Claire's attorney and or business acumen. Do you see what I'm saying?
No, I mean, I completely agree, but, you know, hiring people on a daily basis, if it's not written, it does not exist.
I agree with you.
So going to court, I'm just thinking, you know, on the mentality that,
Funny
okay,
thing
if
is-
this goes
Yeah, but
to
here's the
court,
thing. They don't want to go to court.
well, you never know, because, I mean, she has a pregnancy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
a
If he's
big-
running for VP, they do not want this in the
Right.
court.
And the funny thing is, to your point is, oftentimes the court will actually decide on the side of a Jillian because it was unequal bargaining power. However, I think the more important point in this is I actually think the contract binds no matter what. I think that it's not a matter of whether or not Jillian was suckered. It's whether or not she should have given Claire the heads up.
Yeah, that
Regardless
was
of your
weird. That was the
contract,
thing I was- the only thing I was
when
saying.
Claire said, I need you to do X, Y, and Z, at that moment she should have said no. The fact
Yeah.
that you agreed and said, or basically by silence you
Tacit
complied,
agreement, yeah.
and then went home and sent an email and you didn't copy Claire after
That's-
Claire gave you like instructions, advised you. That's grimy, and
Or
that
at
has nothing to
least
do with the
CC her
contract.
on it.
Thank you. That has nothing to do with the contract. That has to do with that you're doing something not ethically transparent.
Okay.
And the fact that she wasn't there the next day, that does say something. Pregnant or not pregnant. You don't do something of that nature after she
You're
told
running
you.
away
She
from
they
may
got
be an
the-
idealist, but she's not a purist.
But especially, you know,
and she's not stupid.
Nice.
And she's not stupid.
Well,
she's
she
the
graduated from
valedictorian of
she
so
graduated
she
from
knows how
Stanford,
things
like
are. Yeah.
magna cum laude or something.
But you know,
like that.
and Claire explains to her how vital, you know, Sandcorp is and what they did for them. And, you know, working at a big corporation, everyone plays politics. So Jillian just, I think she needs to learn either to play the politics, but adjust it to, you know, how it fits her, or if you can't play with
her
it,
argument
then
was pretty good. It's like, look, I didn't ask you to do this. Was my gig, and who's to say? Without Claire consulting Jillian on that issue, let's face it, Jillian's been able to do a lot of things with nothing. So to the idea that she couldn't get it done another way, she didn't even give her that opportunity.
But maybe her
a great
argument
point,
only
John.
sounds good based on her naivete to working at that level and that caliber. Also,
But seriously, the reason why Claire did it is she didn't care. She didn't care what Jillian had to say or thought or anything. She just was, look, I'm going to get this because I want it.
But from the idealist standpoint of the nonprofit or whatever, maybe it's just, I think she's looking at it obviously for a greater good type of thing.
Who, Claire?
Yeah. Because if Sandcorp was such a no-brainer to take the money, then it wouldn't have been something that was really probably very debatable for Frank, or maybe for her to hold off taking the money. It's like, no, dude, I'm taking the money. Like,
Yeah,
what are you talking about? But it was questionable based on the pressure put on Frank, based on the, you know, Sandcorp is obviously one of those corporations that's throwing money here and there to get their interest. So I don't think that Jillian is really seeing it clearly based on, it's like, look, there's a war going on. It's like a war. It's like you know, these people are gonna do it. We got to do what we have to do for us. So Claire is like, well, we need to get this money so we can do what we have to do. It doesn't matter what else Sandcorp is doing to a certain degree. And it was supposed. It was.
Yeah, but I don't think Jillian.
And it was.
The well is now tainted, shall I say? Okay,
It is. But the
Sandcorp's
agreement was
involved.
that was going to be an isolated scenario between Claire and Remy. It wasn't like this long.
Yeah, but how do you isolate it when you got a PR thing going on?
Right,
It's
and
really
that's,
hard.
remember,
I mean,
and that's what
But
she
it was
agreed
isolated
to.
to that one thing, though.
No, but
See,
remember,
she
she said,
agreed to-
remember she offered. She was like, "Oh, I'll basically like put good spin on Sandcorp for you that we're supporting you." Remember, that's what the first thing
Yeah,
that
that
she
was the
offered
deal.
at the table, at the deal.
she and Remy put
Yeah,
together.
that was
is
the deal
right?
that they
Yeah.
put together.
Okay.
And you can't.
stand
I mean,
corrected.
the whole idea is isolating a PR thing seems counterintuitive. The whole idea of PR is to get it out to many people. How do you isolate something that you want to get out to many people?
Well, if there's a difference between going and being in bed with somebody for
for a long
time.
Gotcha.
And then it's like,
okay, fair enough.
This is like a one-off. We're doing this one party together. We're not partners on a weekly basis. We're doing this one event type of thing. And it was going to look good, and that was going to be it.
I agree with you, but again, I'm going to go back to the whole marriage analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Claire thought of Jillian as window dressing.
Yeah.
She thought she was this good little tree hugger and was going to come and bring a certain level of credibility to her organization, and didn't think she was a viable opponent. And even the way that Jillian stood up to her and said, "Oh, you're afraid of me, or I threaten you." And even the way
I
she
love
was
that
like,
she was pregnant.
no, and she's pregnant, holding her belly, and she was like, "Oh, are you firing me?" And even though she kind of said like, "Oh, are you?" She asked like a question. It still wasn't like that was gonna make her go, "Okay, now I'm just gonna bend to your will."
Right.
And I think that again is analogous to what's been going on the entire season. Is literally only looking at people from the facade of what they are and not thinking that there are layers or that they have any strength to them.
And why was she so strong, Emma? Why did she stand up for herself? Go ahead. You're the one who brought it up.
I think it's just her pregnancy, emotions getting in, playing a part, because now she has something, a person she's carrying. So her mind is how, she's going to support this child. So everything else in the world kind of like doesn't matter because you have a child that you're bringing in now.
Okay.
And I would say for the
part of it.
same reason, she would then reacted exactly opposite, because now she may not have a job. If you have a child that you're bringing into this world and you no longer can go to Botswana to actually do these wells, you need to stay with a CWI where you get a salary and benefits and so forth and so on.
Unemployment,
I didn't look at it like
emergency
that.
Medicare.
I didn't look at it like that. How I looked at it was, this chick is trying to hijack something that I have built. And that's how
hijack another baby, so to speak. It's her
Right.
little baby.
Right.
She put
That's
together,
how I was.
so.
Yes.
It didn't have so much to do about the kid, even though I'm sure she obviously cares about her pregnancy
Sure,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Well,
it was more about she's trying to hijack my company. She actually brought me in so she could weed me out. Because at the end of the day, if she's using WorldWell as the facilitator for doing all this yada yada yada, but wants to do it her way, she
That's
would
no longer
eventually
WorldWell.
have to get rid of me and not have me.
Great
So
point.
that's why she says, "Oh, I threaten you." Because if we're gonna do it the WorldWell way, then I have to be in charge of this, and not you. But Claire has to get her up out of here.
I totally agree.
Janine has to go.
We're running. Can we get to the other
We
things?
are.
Because I know that we're running short on time.
Okay, very quickly, because we do have to wrap here soon. Christina is trying to get Paul Capra to feel.
I like Paul. I
feel-
think he's a great actor. I think.
Yeah.
I just look at him and I go, "This guy's got a great look."
He does. I've seen him in a number
good
of different
stuff.
projects, but this guy, I don't know if he's gonna run for office or not.
That would be good.
I think that would be great for season 2. Hopefully they're including him. You want to say
I
something? Emma?
was just surprised at the way Christina was handling, everything. And I know it's like the show goes on and someone needs to fill in the place, but like to bring in his friend and you were the girlfriend, trying to...
I agree, except
Make
when
an
you
offer.
look at it objectively, here's a guy who, first of all, is good friends with Peter, so he's going to have a lot of goodwill coming into it. He knew the job at some degree.
I just think
And-
she's like stripped off of all her emotions.
Well, that's why they had that moment in the scene. Do you remember that when she went in
She
the office alone,
pictured-
she finally felt it.
Yeah.
So I think she was just trying to keep. And remember, when we left her last episode, she was bawling her eyes out.
And I think also, too, we have to remember there would be a big difference even if Russo had crashed his car versus
Yeah.
committing suicide after he calls her and then hangs up the phone and she can't reach him. That's a level of guilt where she can't deal with it. Or even like the fact that she doesn't go to the funeral and she's like, I can't. So that's, she
Yeah, she's
literally
just
is
trying
like,
to
I'm a
stay.
robot. And that's
Exactly.
why, she leaves her credit card and the person has to call her back. So the way she reacted didn't surprise me. And if you really think about it, she's really being true to Russo. Because at the end of the day, what was Russo? Russo was really a normal guy who cared about his district. So she really, and that's why I think she says, like, there are 600,000 people who are depending on us.
Right.
So for me to carry on his legacy, I need to make sure that those people are represented by someone who is like him and not possibly someone from the complete other side who's not even who's gonna look at them as urban.
And the other thing I was thinking is that, when you lose someone, at least in my experience, sometimes you just have to keep busy.
Yeah.
Because the moment you stop, which is what happened in the
You break
office, when
down.
all of a sudden it hits you. Because you never know when those waves of pain are going to hit you.
Right. Well, we've
Wait. We have to talk real quick about Janine.
Yeah, that's what I was just
Zoe.
about to say.
Oh, beg your pardon.
The thing with Janine is, we have to wrap.
I know.
We can start at the top of next episode, but you guys can also leave comments. A couple questions. Janine is getting really close in her investigation. Certain things are just obvious, and that's her veteran journalism coming into play, where she's been there, done that, and she's actually posing questions that Zoe is beginning to ask herself. I think. I think Zoe is Zoe trying to throw Janine off of her scent.
Originally,
but now is she?
Now she's taking it up. I gotta say that one of the funniest things for me in this episode, I think the writers are having a lot of fun with Kopeniak's girlfriend, the stripper.
Yes.
Echo. Who? Echo. Twice they did it. Twice they did it. They did that with the woman, and then at the strip joint, Zoe goes up to the bar, the guy at the door.
Yeah.
She goes, "Where's Echo?" And he goes, "What? Echo." So they did it twice.
That.
That's hilarious.
Having a good time with Echo.
But one thing that I do want to get feedback from our listeners and viewers is, when Zoe admits that she was with Frank, was that a wise thing to do? Is that going to come in bite her
you
in
mean
the
to
behind?
Lucas? Yeah,
both with Lucas and with Janine.
Well, it got to the point where it's like the more information that they were finding out, it was obvious who was whose connect. She couldn't hide it for
I think her behind was bit the first time she slept with him myself, but the truth will set her free. I mean, that's her only way out of this, is to be honest.
And it's also
that's the only way she's going to gain back her integrity, which is what she's trying to do.
Exactly. And it's also evident that she brought Janine in as a security blanket. As far as I'm concerned, I look at it like she brought Janine in as a security blanket because Janine has been there, done that, and she respects Janine's assertive, aggressive experience in how she approaches the game. She knows that's what she does not have yet because she hasn't been in the game as long.
Janine admitted she's been there, so she's gone through that thing.
Hopefully, we'll find out who she's been with.
Every time she asks a question, she's really making a statement. Every time she asks
it was interesting.
Oh, are you sleeping with Frank? Are you sleeping with her? But she's really saying, I know you're sleeping with her. You know what she's really saying. Anyway.
But how about Lucas saying that he loved her? I'm sorry, we'll go on.
Oh my gosh, Lucas. Fool. Anyway, we'll talk about that.
Oh my goodness,
see?
don't
We'll get the cut off right
that.
now. Sorry, guys. Where can we find you guys until next episode?
You can find me on Twitter at Sophia Stanley.
You can find me on Twitter at IamEmmaK and Instagram, RealEmmaK.
And you can find me here. And you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Club Thaddeus. And you can go ahead, John.
You can find me right here. Nowhere else.
We're covering the finale at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Hopefully see you guys then.
All right.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.